but it's going to be a number of classrooms. These are located more towards the west end of the property. The entrance is right here. So this is the entrance of the building, and then the rear of the building here. So we've got 5 classrooms, and then a gross motor space for indoor play when we can't use the playground. So this site would be licensed to serve 87 children. So these would be 87 kids split across the five classrooms. So they'd be preschool classrooms that are for 3 and 4-year-olds, 2 classrooms for 2-year-olds, and then an infant toddler room. The infant toddler room wouldn't start right away. This is kind of a new programmatic piece in the direction that we're moving in, serving younger children as District 112 continues to serve younger children as well, and they're looking to expand their 3 and 4-year-old programs. So these are pieces that continue to move, and it's something that community has done, adjusting its programming over the 67 years that we've been in Highland Park to ensure that we're working with the other organizations in the city to best serve the kids that need us every single day. These are the draft elevations for the building. So I'll make one note right now. This front entrance is what was being discussed and proposed for Kennedy Park, and it would not be a part of the building that we'd potentially propose for the West Ridge site. So we wouldn't have that exterior piece. That was more for when it was fronting on Clavey Road, and we wanted to provide kind of a nice entrance piece when it was facing the road, as we're going to be kind of sitting back behind West Ridge Center. We've taken that out of the plans and continue to refine other aspects of the exterior look of this. This is something that continues to kind of be in the works as we go down the line. And then there's one other piece that we can kind of put up here for context. So this is just a rendering of that site layout. This is just a computer screen. All right, there we go. That's a rendering of the site layout, kind of over the aerial of the current West Ridge Center. So again, the 11,000 square foot single-story building, the parking lot, and you can kind of see this line right here, right? Existing parking lot, and then new expansion on the parking lot, and the 2 outdoor play spaces. And then I'm going to check with everybody else to make sure that I've covered everything. Yes, off of Ridge. So the reason we're coming off of Ridge Road was a request of the school district. So this piece of property is owned by the school district, and they specifically requested that we not enter and leave the site off of Red Oak because of the traffic on Red Oak right now that's servicing all of the schools, right? We've got 1, 2, right, 3 or 4 different schools up and down Red Oak already. And so it was their kind of request that any of the entrance and exit for this be done to Ridge Road through this parking lot. Landscaping, thank you. So the landscaping plan is kind of one of the last pieces that we can put in place. We need to have the full site layout, which includes the shape and placement of the detention area. So the landscape plan will include a number of new tree plantings and shrubs around the foundation, protecting the water detention area around the parking lot. So in a number of places, this specific plan is in the works and we'll have in the next 2 to 3 weeks as we complete our preliminary engineering and then are able to turn that over to our landscape architect who would lay something out. As I said before, we would definitely want to make sure that we're coordinating both with the park district about landscaping that's going to be along Safety Town here. And then we'd also be wanting to coordinate with all of our neighbors up here to the north as to what we want the landscaping in that area to be. As the water detention is likely to be located up there, we'd like to know what we want to do as far as screening with trees, more screening, less screening, and what their sight lines may be. So we want to talk with them and kind of adjust our plan accordingly so we can, again, make something that's going to work best for everybody. And the neighborhood, Dave should just come up here. We've scheduled a neighborhood meeting, and we're sent out or are sending out currently postcard invitations to everybody within 500 or 700 feet. So we've got kind of all the addresses in this area. We're going to be inviting everybody and then sending it out broader online invitations. So inviting everybody to a neighborhood meeting from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, February 5th. Everyone's nodding, so I got that right. So it's 7 to 9 p.m. on the 5th, and that's going to be at the meeting room at the police station, so just up Ridge Road.
Good. David, is he done?
Am I done? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, wait.
So-
Lori? I'm sorry, do you have any questions?
Yeah, you know what, I do. So thank you for that.
No problem. And let me know which visual would help with your questions the most.
Oh, okay. Well, mine really has to do with, first, I appreciate you addressing the parking spots, which is important, but also you mentioned the drop-off area. So it's not only a matter of parking, I just want to make sure that we continue to service our residents the same way we always did, and if we can get that parking back, that's great. How is it going to work, and how do we work together to make sure that we can still continue a drop-off for summer camp?
Yeah, great question. So besides lots and lots of staff coordination and communication, which is always going to be the key, the site layout allows for a couple of different traffic flows. So our drop-off and pickup doesn't happen at set times. So we don't have a hard start time or a hard end time. So we've got busier periods, and I'm going to ask Lisa to remind me of when those busy periods are. 7:30 to 8:30 and 4:30 to 5:30. So those are our busier points, but the students are being dropped off and picked up over a longer period of time. We also don't do curbside drop-off, so it's all park and then parents walk the children in. So we wouldn't have cars backing up, right? So these parking spots here are what we'd be designating for our families to park in and walk kids into the building, right, and then walk them back out. Lined up here, right, and the further parking spots would be for staff, for Highland Park community staff parking. So we wouldn't have cars that would be, right, stacking up and lining up going back that way. And there's also then a separate traffic flow, right? Imagine our families are driving in here and able to drop off. There's also a circulation pattern that happens right here. So this is the same circulation pattern that exists right now in that parking lot, and that pattern would be maintained. And we'd also have the added, right, the option of flowing traffic around that circle. So the specifics of how that would happen, I mean, I think that's something that we have to talk about and work out, but I think the site layout really provides a number of options so that we can maintain something similar to what's happening now.
Okay, because then that would bring up my concern that if you have parents working with children, you want to make sure that we don't have our campers being dropped off. Parents, tend to zip in and out, so, I'd want to be careful as far as how we do that, so parents who are walking with their children aren't in any kind of jeopardy.
Right.
So you're saying, I guess I don't really follow this. Where's Westridge? Is it
Sure.
down there?
Yeah, sorry. Maybe you can jump back here. So
Hey, Zach?
Westridge is right here.
Okay, and then, okay, so.
I
when
think
you're
I
talking
can
about the
answer
circle
part of
jerk-
Lori's question.
Yeah,
Our parents of our campers will not go anywhere near
the back area. It
the
looks
back area where their lot is. And that's where Zach showed you where if you go up, Zach, one more picture. So there's two turnarounds. There's the natural turnaround that we have that our parents would use. And then parents of the community nursery school would use the second turnaround and come into that lot. And there'd be no reason for any of our parents to go into that lot. So I think, thank you, David. I think,
Thank you.
that would alleviate your concern on
Okay,
our
just I guess-
parents,
okay.
and they're walking with too many cars. There'd be no reason for our cars to go into that area,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to figure out where Westridge is. Where are we now?
Sure, so Westridge Center is here.
Talking about that.
We're
So here's.
here as far as I understand
Hold on,
currently.
Zach.
So Westridge
Yeah.
is
So
over here.
here's
So there's no
Westridge.
Westridge, that's why I couldn't find it.
Right.
Right, so here's
Oh, where's
Westridge, here's Safety Town. So our parents would do this normally.
Right.
Their parents would do this, park here, back out, and then come through.
Okay, so it goes like that.
I'm not,
Goes diagonal, there's a black line that goes down. That is a walkway that goes into the gym entrance. That's what she's worried, that's what she's asking. That's the only drop-off entrance, I think, from that house.
got it.
Okay, great, thank you. And then my other question was the times, but you said they're not hard start times. Who is responsible for plowing all this, for like days like today?
We are.
We're gonna be doing that?
Yeah, I think these are pieces that, right, we'd have, right, because part of this is going to be, right, the property line runs right here. And so what we're talking about and what we're proposing is actually building part of this new circulation and new parking lot on Park District property and part of it on District 112 property. So I think there's going to be a number of items, snow clearing included, that we're going to have to talk about probably as three groups sitting down together, so that we can all get on the same pages
Yeah,
for that.
no, that's fine. I'm actually, I'm proud of our plowing, quite honestly. We do an excellent job at the rec center, and I think that's important because we're really all connected. If we were separate, someone isn't plowed, that backs up traffic, and I think it's nice that it all get done at the same time.
I am excited to hear that because our parking lot right now is a little ripped up at Carter Center, and it is icy.
I also add just one question for that, is that the parking is absolutely available to the Park District. Evenings and weekends, we're never there. We are weekdays, and we're just those hours, so all year weekend, all summer, all evenings, all year, that parking lot is at your.
Right, yeah, so we operate all year round. We usually close for about a week around the New Year's and holidays, and we usually close for about 2 weeks in August, right before the District 112 school year starts. Otherwise, we operate year-round. But our hours of operation really are 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. So those are the hours that we're open. So staff would potentially be on site 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then outside of that, yeah, we wouldn't be using this parking lot, right? And we'd love to talk about shared use of any of these kind of site improvements that we'd be putting in.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And then, did we address, Brian Romes, you'd mentioned at one of our meetings when this idea came up that we would lose Little Sluggers. Have we relocated that program?
We're working with Parks and Fire.
Okay. Yeah, so one thing is what we did use that for was Little Sluggers.
Right.
My son's grown now, but when he was little, what was really nice is that it was a mini field of sorts. So you don't put them, in this oversized, it doesn't feel right to them. So that was one
Sure.
of the disadvantages to that. But if, we're going to work on relocating.
We'll find
it.
somewhere to put it.
Hopefully, yeah.
It's a big program, we will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
it-
It's just, I want to make sure we stay on how we did it. It was very intimate. I just think that's important when the kids are little and the field feels enormous to them as it is.
Yeah, and something important to us, and this might speak to that to a degree, was maintaining, while still meeting our parking needs, the water detention, right? We have to do stormwater management on site, and placing the building. We wanted to locate things in a way that we, right, kind of hugged the property line, so we left as much open field as possible. So there may be an opportunity to locate. I think there were 4 Little Sluggers fields there before,
Yeah.
but there might be the opportunity to put one or something in that space. So it wouldn't be, we're not going to take up every single
Okay.
square foot of that field.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that we're able to, not interfere with each other. We can complement, the parking lots and make all that work.
Yeah, hopefully that's going to work really well. And the fire department was able to make even this turn going out, that S turn. So they were pretty happy and surprised themselves. I think they were delighted with their driving abilities.
Thank you.
Questions from anyone else that I can help answer?
Barney?
We'll let Terry go.
I just have one question. And you partially answered it. You answered actually a couple of my other questions. So you're kind of just guessing right now about the location and the shape and the size of the detention pond, right?
Correct. Yeah, the only piece that we really know is the topography of the site. And so if we look at this kind of zoomed in look, the high point for the site is over here, and water generally flows in this direction. And then there's a stormwater inlet somewhere up in this area. And so we don't want to fight nature, right? So we'll likely be locating that detention and shaping it with the topography of the site, which is going to concentrate kind of down in this triangle down here. But you're correct. The scale of it and the exact location are not set. The scale of it is set by the amount of impervious space. So the parking lot, the sidewalks, the building that we're adding on site. And this may also include the impervious area that we're adding on the Park District property, so that all of that would flow then to this same water detention, so that the Park District and Westridge don't have to do anything new with stormwater management.
So
Well, I can just add too, that what the area you see there was the same square footage area that we had done preliminary engineering for Kennedy. So just for reference, we used that. But there are different factors here, both the amount of impervious here is a little bit different. And also because of the topography and the location of the storm source, we have to understand the depths and the grades that all this has to go to. So it affects how deep and how wide the stormwater has to be on this site. That's just for general illustration purposes.
So the reason I'm asking about that is about the triangular space that appears between the new building and the detention area. And, well, the lawn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Correct.
So, do you have doors, do the classrooms have doors exiting onto the field?
They do have doors, and I believe they're only emergency exit doors.
Yeah.
So the main entrance and exit to the building is here, and then there's a door directly on here for the infants and toddlers, and then a rear door that goes to the playground. These do have doors, but they would not be used on a daily basis.
Okay, so you don't have any specific plans, though, for the area there?
No,
I mean,
not right now.
It's not, it's like, it's a nice spring day, maybe the kids, instead of going into the play lots, are gonna go onto the grass, this isn't,
So, yeah, so anytime, they may, the same that they might go use Sunset Woods Park now, right from our location at Kennedy, or any other piece. But anytime that we're taking the kids anywhere other than the building or the fenced-in playground spaces, we have to treat, for licensing reasons, as a field trip. And so that's how it would be handled. It's not going to be open the door and let them run. We would treat it like a field trip, which has different staffing requirements. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who's going to have a much better answer.
Floor staffing requirement when we're outside of the fence, it's 1 to 4 for preschoolers, and it's more than that for younger children. So we have to be very careful when we're outside.
yeah, that's what my concern was. Okay, thank you.
You're up.
Thanks. No, I don't have a lot of questions, other than I'd like to understand the timing, and you have, because you've got a lot of governmental authorities that have to weigh in here. I'd like to have an understanding of that, and I'd like to frame the question to council as to when we will see an operating agreement, an easement agreement. All the documents are necessary because you're going to be using our property.
Correct. So the timing of easement agreements or any terms that we'd want to be discussing with you, we hope to provide in the next 1 to 2 days. As we've learned about this site and worked through this site plan, we've kept a running list of items that we'd want to discuss. And so we hope to present that to you and how we think it may work best for everybody this week, so in the next couple of days. Then the project planning timeline, we would hope to complete all of our preliminary planning by mid-February, and that would get submitted to the city plan commission. So that meeting then with them would take place in mid-March. So that would be the review of our special use permit. So an early childhood center anywhere in Highland Park is a special use permit, and so that's what we'd be going through that for. But it's also the design review happens at the same time. We'd go through that, and then we would, coming out of that, we would need to go to City Council for final approval of that special use permit, at which point we can get building permits. So now we're into late April, early May, and so we'd be looking at May through August being our construction period, and our target date right now to open up with children at this facility would be September 1st.
My concern is within that timing, the arrangements between the Park District and District 112 have to be documented. The arrangements between the Park District and your school have to be documented. And obviously, the permits, et cetera, from the city. And I would assume that we would want to have our documentation done so that we could represent to the city and to the school district that we are in total agreement, our documentation is done, so that we don't leave dangling that we haven't come to agreement and we have to, ask for more time.
Absolutely, which is why we've been trying to diligently lay out and think through this whole process as to any pieces that might come up in this process, and then we're happy to take the lead and do whatever we can to help all of these different groups to see these agreements through.
We'll look forward to it. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Zach, thank you. David, Lisa, Sue, thank you for coming. Unless you want to add more to the presentation.
No, I mean, at this point, we're just happy to kind of share what we know thus far and answer any questions.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liza, any?
I think
Excellent.
we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Highland Park Country Club Planning Process Update, Rebecca Grill.
We won't.
Never ran the Ditto machine either. So thank you very much. We wanted to take a chance to update the board after our public meeting, which we had January 15th. It was pretty successful. We had about 60 people in attendance. Some of you attended as well. So we just wanted to take a look at where we are now and what is next in our planning for this project. We have completed now our conceptual planning with a presentation to the public, and we're moving toward design development. We met on January 7th with the Lake County Forest Preserve District Planning Committee as per the easement that is on the property. We will be going back to them with our final design development plans. We have also taken the time to meet with our public works staff at the City of Highland Park to continue that conversation about what stormwater storage on the property looks like and where we hope to have that land with the wetland analysis that we have passed forward to the Corps of Engineers and the footprint that we're trying to look at between us and the city to continue to have a conversation about softer engineering practices and more innovative design. We have also had an internal planning committee meeting on January 23rd, and that was really the kickoff for our next phase, which is design development. So Hay and Associates will be working toward very zoomed-in plan sets, looking at the different sections of the property and creating documents that will lead us eventually toward construction. Our meeting March 5th for the advisory committee. We do have some time built in there for our board liaisons to look at the plans before they go to the advisory committee. And we are meeting February 4th with the Stormwater Management Commission. We're beginning the discussions about permitting for the property, and also, again, bringing them in the loop on what we've been doing as far as stormwater. April will be going back to Lake County Forest Preserve District. We met with their planning committee on the conceptual plans. This time we'll be bringing our final design development plans to them for hopeful approval, and then on to you guys in April. So we wanted to discuss a little bit about how input was used. We've had approximately 3 meetings with our internal planning committee, multiple advisory committee meetings, including our small group gatherings, our January 15th board public meeting, and we got your input on the conceptual plans back in December. So some of the things that we have done in the conceptual plan that you have in front of you now is the one that was 15th public. We heard from our internal planning committee about safety issues regarding water access, so we pulled that access back away from the pond and created a more of a play area, an observation area, so that we addressed some concerns staff had about rocks being thrown out into the water from what was then called a pebble beach. So we've also taken a look at some possible locations for restrooms. So those are shown on the plan, and we'll be talking with the Stormwater Management Commission about those locations as well, because that is driven, of course, by the watershed development ordinance as well, and where we can place that kind of a facility. We talked a little bit about the materials that we use and how flooding, which will occur on the property, will affect those materials. So the designers are being aware of that and making sure that we have things that can be easily cleaned or replaced if necessary in case we get flooding in those areas where the elements are located. Our advisory committee, among other things, we wanted to talk about monitoring and safety on the property. I think that was raised with the board input also. So we're talking about things like, in terms of design, sight lines, making sure that people are able to feel safe on the property. We will also be looking at educational opportunities and partnerships down the road. This plan is kind of the exciting part where you get to start thinking about opportunities for partnerships, perhaps with a high school or hospital. So building in some of those ideas and thinking down the road also for possible funding support for those activities. Pathway loops for all levels of ability were important to everyone, and so those have been taken into account for the design. We created more of a We created more of a loop closer into the building. So the pathways that you see here now, Jeff Smith has been working to start to price out some of those pathway relocations and replacements where we need to, so that we have a nice, safe, and accessible surface. After our public meeting and with the input of the board, we also moved some of the picnic area down closer to the building, and also plan to enhance the seating area that's closer to the building so that that could be used for programming that would be easily accessible closer to parking and to the recreation center or senior center in the future. In terms of signage and wayfinding, we've made sure that we are taking into consideration those access routes that are at the north end of the property, working to make sure those are properly signed and so that they are visible to pedestrians and bikers on both ends. And we'll also be ensuring that there's signage on the site. We don't want to clutter the site with signs, so we've been talking about things like signage that might appear on the pavement itself or very low-lying signs. So again, kind of keeping that nice sense that we have of wide open spaces, but providing people wayfinding information that they need to get around. Bike pedestrian conflicts, again, we kind of talked about that quite a bit, and it's rolled into the design process, but there are going to be considered things about pavement surfacing or, again, signage that will help us also make sure that those internal loops where we feel that the design lends itself to quiet leisure biking to the best of our abilities are used in that way, in fact. And then finally, there are some operational things that came up that we want to deal with internally with staff, and so we'll be meeting February 7th to talk about things like maintenance, permits and rentals, programming, possibly some temporary types of shelter or possibly lighting that would be closer into the building. So we'll be looking at some of those issues that have occurred and see what we can do to address them. So looking forward on the overall project timeline, we will be starting again April 1st to be working in the natural areas doing seed installation and plan to begin construction of elements and work on paths in fall of 2019. We are looking into some grant opportunities that might push some of that pathway work out ahead to 2020, but it could be beneficial for the district, and I think that we are developing a plan to be able to do that. But spring of 2020 would bring us planting time of live plants, work on shorelines. We're in fall waiting to hear about an IEPA grant that we put out there, so that's why shoreline restoration gets going closer to in spring of 2020 to accommodate that timeline, and in fact works very well from a plant's point of view, so that's going to be great. On River Day of 2020, which is in May, we plan to do a large community planting event and cleanup, and then have an opening event sometime late summer of 2020. I think that's all of my slides. Any questions?
Lori?
Yeah, just one thing, Rebecca. One of my daughter's teachers from the high school, Christine Hill, I think you're familiar with her?
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, she's the AP Environmental Science teacher, and I think she does honors physics as well. But she wants to get her classes involved in projects. So if you could reach out to her, if you have her number, I can give it to you. I think it's a really great partnership to make this an education type, and it's hands-on, and it's free help for us, a lot of hands-on for them. So I really like to see us working together with the environmental science groups at the high school.
Thank you, Lori. As you know, we work closely with Christine and Howie on our Ravine Education Program. So we bring their environmental students out to do just that kind of work. There's not so much of a service component to that, so I like that idea very much, and would absolutely good idea to reach out to Chris. Thank you.
Terry?
Sure. I'm going to do a foundation report in a little bit, but when I left your meeting, which I was happy to report was so well attended and vibrant, I came to the foundation meeting, and they were right in the middle of their discussion about some sort of synergy with the open land area. So has anybody reached out to you, or I don't know where that stood actually? And
Yes, I think Liza brought that to our attention, and Liz Gagola being our liaison, we have all talked, and we're very excited about the idea. And I guess in terms of timing, we want to get to our design development plans, which are going to be more specific about what those elements look like, because we want to know what we would be trying to gain support for, because we could see a scenario where someone might adopt, the water play area or something like that. So that is something we're considering. We've asked Hay and Associates to kind of think of those things that, we have our budget, and these are the things we've included. Is there anything, exciting that we did not include that would be potential for that kind of support?
Right, we think it's really important that obviously, this is a huge project that we all believe in, and that the foundation has a really strong role in it and a presence there, so that people can link our sort of support to what they're seeing that's right in front of them. So,
Yeah, I think that's a tremendous idea. Thank you.
one other thing, just
Terry, could I just interject
Oh,
on
sure.
the foundation piece? Just because we have had meetings with two of the foundation members, including Bob Bernstein, and we're actually planning to attend the foundation meeting in February, but at our meeting with the foundation members, we all agreed that it will be much more beneficial if we wait until we have really good design concepts that we can show what we're looking at, because right now, these plans talk about all the play elements,
Yeah.
but you're still kind of looking at it saying, what is it that we can wrap our brains around? So we all agreed to wait until March, and the other thing that we're going to be doing, we are getting the foundation and this plan in front of our Rotary Club, to also talk to them about potential funding and show them what this is all about. So we're trying to expand this synergy.
Oh, yeah.
So it's clearly on the burner for the foundation for this upcoming year.
Great. Just one question about the results from that meeting. I know your presentation sort of encapsulated some of the feedback you received. Two things. Did you receive any really strong objections to anything that's in the plan? And did you get any, brand fresh new ideas that, I didn't ever even thought about that?
I think we got a lot of general support. I think people were concerned about, oddly, about lighting, and I think most of their perception was that the people that were in attendance anyway were concerned that there would be lighting. So that's an interesting perspective. We had quite a few neighbors from the Legacy Club in attendance. I think another thing that came up was signage, and how are people going to find their way around the property. But interestingly, one of the attendees said, this is the kind of place where you really can't get lost, because you can see where you're going. And unlike perhaps Heller, where you have more of an exploration in the woods and, what's around the next corner, you can see what's around the next corner at the country club. So, and as I said, we're considering that in our design anyway. I'm looking now at my notes from that meeting.
While you're looking, I was just going to mention that you had that one area where you had 5 or so buckets, and people were putting the heads of the markers for their passions. And I was just wondering do you remember, Jeff, you know what I'm talking about? Did you get a sense of the community for where their passions lie with that, or?
Most people put the marker caps in an other container. It wasn't as successful as we were hoping.
Oh, I thought it was really cool.
But we did hear from the people who were putting the marker caps in the other container was that they were really interested in walking. So more than what to do in the gathering areas, it was we want to be able to walk and just, walk through the paths and walk through the property. I think that was what was most exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary of that. And I guess a lot of the other things were, the kind of operational things that we've heard before and we're working to address.
Okay.
So I guess one thing that did stand out, and I think it was kind of a perhaps misunderstanding, was the amphitheater area where we were showing gatherings. People were concerned about that until we kind of explained, okay, it's more of a seating area, and we've changed our conceptual plans to reflect that.
Negative rock concerts there.
Yeah, no, Stones are not having a reunion there, so.
Okay, thank you. Barney?
Oh, I don't have any questions. I just want to comment, and I've said this before. The tone of the meeting was very different than we've experienced before. And people were supportive of the entire project. They asked some questions, and some of the questions were the same concerns that we've already been studying, but there was no sense of hostility. There was a sense of welcoming. So
Good.
I think we've
It's
made,
about time.
I think we've made, through the efforts of all, very good progress in the project.
I just had one question. Have we thought, and Liza's going to talk about naming rights, but have we talked or thought about naming this property something other than the country club?
That was in part of my presentation.
But not just for naming rights?
Yeah.
For
Yeah, once you guys were done and Rebecca was done, I was going to say, so now we have this great property, and it's not the Highland Park Country
No,
Club,
and
but
I'd like
we know
to-
it needs a name,
I'd
so.
like to differentiate it from,
Right. So so what I was going to recommend, because we're not going to come up with the name tonight, if you have suggestions, let us know. But Rebecca's referred a couple of times tonight to an internal planning committee that we have. And we talked about it very briefly at our last internal planning committee. But I think it's something that we would like to tackle unless there is a specific, I should say, I think that we were a little leery of going out for a big public process on this in terms of what the name should be. I think we were trying to find something that was really fitting of the property, but we're certainly open to suggestions if anyone has any, and then we'll take it back to the planning committee
All right, good.
to talk about and then come back to everyone.
I would like to suggest a committee, but I think that the sooner we can change the name in the public's mind and put signs up saying maybe it's an interim name, I'm not really concerned about that, but to change the name from Highland Park Country Club to some nature-oriented aspect of the facility, but
Okay.
as soon as we can.
Okay.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our segue into naming rights.
Okay, well, we just talked about the name, so we're good on that. So the other thing that has come up has been, and there's actually been conversations at the foundation level, is would we name the property, and what would that take? So for the purpose of however limited or lengthy discussion you want to have, I have included in the packet a copy of our naming policy, and obviously we can name a property after an individual or someone who, the naming policy outlines if we want to do something for a person who has made significant contributions, it's all included in here. But I think one of the things was, when we established our naming policy, it was, I think the thought was really more construction. And the best example that I will use is the Deborah Beitler Dog Park, because that was really our first named park in the last 10 years. And we very specifically said that if you wanted to have a structure named for yourself, that you would need to contribute 60% of the construction costs, and that was the example that was given, and that contribution matched the ask of our policy, so that worked out very well. However, with the case of this property, there was the purchase price, and then obviously the construction is not quite as extensive. It's not going to total the 1.9 million. So I think there was a desire to have a discussion about how we might tackle this, because it doesn't necessarily fall within the donation-specific percentage for this type of a project. There also is questions about whether this should be something that we go and seek out corporate naming rights, but I think we need to establish what the dollar value, for lack of a better word, might be if we wanted to name this 100-acre parcel for, or, really sell it to someone to have their name on it.
I'm going to suggest that we all go back and read this, because this was from 2012. that we table this discussion till Commissioner Bernstein's here so that we're all here
Okay,
to have the discussion together and not in piecemeal form.
okay.
I'll accept you if you want to call it after me, right now. No? You want to table that too?
Yes. Good try, though.
Do you have $1 million?
Well, I thought, community service.
$999,999. All right, let's go on to new business, Parks Foundation update.
Treasurer's.
Oh, Treasurer's Report, Annette Curtis to present. Thank you. Never.
Remember, it's a team effort.
Good evening. My report tonight is rather brief. The financial information for 2018 is still very preliminary and not presented in tonight's board packet. Staff has a few more days to submit 2018 invoices for payment. Once those items have been posted, the business office will begin the closing process in preparation for the audit in March. And pre-audited financial statements will be available by the March board meeting for your review. Included in today's memo was some action that IMRF has taken, and I just would like to present that to you. A significant factor in our yearly contribution rate calculation is the assumed rate of return on investment. This is a standard rate that IMRF has been using for years. In December, the IMRF's Board of Trustees reduced that assumed return rate from 7.5% to 7.25%. That doesn't seem like much, but moving forward, it is definitely going to have an impact on our operations. IMRF essentially assuming that the investments will be earning a little less, which will make our contribution rate a little higher every year. This won't go into effect until 2020, so our 2019 contribution rate, which I had previously presented at our budget meetings, was at 1.06%. That will be staying the same. For 2020, we potentially could see an increase of about 1%, so we'd be at more like 2%. Now, this is a rate that fluctuates every year. There, in our recent past, and this is just kind of a reminder, in our recent past, in 2016, we were at 3%. 2017, we were at almost 5%. So right now, we're very low because investments have been doing so well, but in the near future, who knows? So we could see our contribution rates going back up. This change also affects our unfunded liability calculation. As a reminder, at the end of 2017, our plan was overfunded by 117%. 2018's final information has not been released yet, so I'm not sure where we stood at the end of 2018. We should be receiving that in the next few weeks. But as a result, in 2019, our financial statements, that unfunded liability calculation, that dollar amount that we present on our district-wide financial statements will actually be lower than what we were seeing in prior years. So, any questions on any of that? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Grossberg, Foundation update.
Thank you. So, exciting things brewing with the foundation as we have a event with the Ravinia Brewing Company. We have a fundraising opportunity with them on Monday, February 25th. Put it in your calendars. I know you all like beer. From 5 to 11 that evening, the Parks Foundation will get 25% of all sales. So it'll be kid-friendly, too. They do have a small menu. Not sure if you've all been there, but they have really delicious tacos. So I'm a big fan. And so please, come on. And then from February 25th to March 3rd, they will also have a donation line item on their receipts for customers to add on to their bills. They've been doing, just a shout out to them, they've been doing different things for different organizations since they've opened, and they deserve some credit for their pay it forward sort of attitude there. The event will be promoted by the brewery, the Park District, as well as posted on both the Park District's and Park Foundation's board Facebook pages. So we talked about capital campaign, and a lot of it had to do with the Highland Park nature trails. And so Liza seems to know more about that than I do, since they've had a meeting after that. So they were waiting for some more update reports on what happened at that meeting and any outcomes that came from that. Another mention about the Champions Banquet. It'll be Tuesday, May 21st at the Highland Park Country Club, and the guest speaker will be Mike Ditka. So we think that that'll be a very big ticket. We have, in case anything happens to, we have Cody Parkey will be the backup, I believe. We're looking for the board's assistance, Brian Kaplan, with both silent and live auction items, perhaps a Luke Farrell, and
I couldn't give that.
MLK Day. We had a presence at MLK Day, which I heard was really great.
Where's the segue?
She will bring, we had a Jennifer Freeman did a Kindness Rocks presentation there, and it was a project, it was really, really excellent. I'm sure they talked to a lot of people about the Park District and the Park Foundation, and it was quite excellent. Upcoming, we are going to go with the Bluegrass is offered their crawfish boil again, right around Mardi Gras. And last year was very successful. I think we made a couple $1,000s on that. And the date is not certain yet, but they're going to call us back. Any questions?
Nope. Yeah, I do. I have one question, I'm sorry. How do we advertise the participation with Ravinia Brewing, because we don't want to appear that we're advertising, go out and get drunk? Or words like that.
I don't know.
The foundation will manage all of that. They now have their own website and,
So we'll just be appropriate.
right, and frankly, when we had the shrimp thing, I think that we did some marketing of it because it's really, it's kid-friendly and we can make it appear, I mean.
Yeah, we just have to be.
We can market it so that it's a kid-friendly, not go out and,
That's what I just want to be careful
yeah,
about.
we'll take care of that.
Segue into director's report.
Well, it's kind of award season in the world that we know it, and it's pretty much been award season for the Park District of Highland Park. That's my segue. And so a couple of things. For the 28th year in a row, we are receiving the Government Finance Officer Association's the Certificate of Achievement, which is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment. So this is something that the Park District truly is proud of receiving pretty much on an annual basis and has done so for quite a long time. So congratulations to Annette and her team for their diligence with that. We got a nice plaque, and we have a news release going out on that. Once again, congratulations to Megan Liebeck and under Kathy's supervision for PDERMA. We are again a Level A accredited agency. We will be receiving, actually we did receive a cash award of $1,500. So that is something, as everyone knows, the PDHP motto, safety never sleeps, and we are very diligent about trying to minimize any potential risk. And so congratulations. And frankly, the PDERMA Safety Award, it's something that everyone participates in, so congratulations to everyone. And the awards kept coming as this past weekend, the Park District was at the Illinois Park and Recreation Annual State Conference. And at that conference, we were awarded the Sunset Valley Golf Course, or Golf Club, I should say, received the Renovation of the Year, which is a pretty prestigious award in the Parks and Recreation world. So that was in the renovation category for both the golf course and the clubhouse. So congratulations to everyone whom was involved with that project. And then in addition to that, we also got, there's a lot of categories in the marketing arena for awards. It's an agency showcase, so how you show off what you do. And the Park District participated in photography and the agency showcase. We got a first place award for a sports picture, and then we got a third place award for a landscaping picture. One was at Sunset Valley, I believe, and the other was basketball. And then,
Were these taken by Rika or Jeff?
no,
Cohen?
they were taken by, one was Jeff Cohen, and I don't remember the name of the other
Did
person.
Jeff place third or first?
I think he placed third.
Oh, okay. First?
Oh, was he first?
Yeah, that,
Was he was golf the,
that's Sunset.
okay.
Is he aware of that?
I'd have to find out.
We need to let him know. He's one of our residents who, he's actually a neighbor and told me he photographs golf courses. I'm like, no, you don't. And he sure does. I mean, he's been such a great addition.
Yeah, well, we used a lot of his photos,
Oh,
which
okay,
is a
let him
good
know.
segue to our rental brochure, the Sunset Valley Private Events and Golf Outings brochure, won second place in the integrated photography category. So congratulations for all of those awards during awards season. And lastly, we have a couple of events of note. The annual Daddy-Daughter Dance takes place this weekend. Are tickets still available? If, nope, we are sold out, which means that we have over 300 dads and their gals attending, which is a really, really, really fun and sweet event. And then February 28th is the last day for early bird discount for Park District of Highland Park camps. So when you're freezing at home on Wednesday, you can sign up for camps. And then this weekend, we also have Nature Discovery Day at Heller from 10 o'clock to noon. And there will be lots of snow for people to cross country and enjoy being outside. And that's something we haven't had a lot of in the winter at the Nature Day. So, and then start to look forward to planning for opening at Sunset Valley. And as I mentioned, camp registration, recruitment of camp counselors, lifeguards, et cetera. We're always looking, so visit the Park District website, www.pdhp.org, and there's a job for you. So that's my report.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other board comments? Someone from the public like to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, why not? It's set up.
So hi, my name is Kathy Nachman. I'm at 844 Highland Place, and I have listened very diligently to all that you've done tonight. I feel that I was here for a certain reason, but I feel in respect to all that you guys do, that it behooves me to be knowledgeable on all fronts. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Park District for helping the Kennedy, Friends of Kennedy Park, create a solution to the Highland Park Community Nursery School issue. And I would like to thank you, the Park District. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Highland Park Community Nursery School and District 112 and the City of Highland Park for listening to us. So thank you to all the parties, but thank you to the Park District. Also, As many of you know, I'm an avid golfer. I've been playing at Sunset Valley for since 1980, and my mother before that when we moved out here. She started playing here in '64. But I'd like to thank you for the wonderful job that you've done with Sunset Valley, and I'm getting excited, although it's a little difficult right now with the weather being what it is, but I'm very excited. I'd like to thank Kathy Donahue and Brian Romes and Cole Sangren and Rob Saunders and Liza for all that they've done to assist Highland Park High School golf teams in getting through last season, which was a challenge, I think, for everybody, but the assistance and the help that the golf teams got from the Park District was really most appreciated. And lastly, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Liza for her service to Highland Park community, our community here at Highland Park. Wonderful things that you've helped the various boards that you've worked with to do some just terrific things, from the lakefront to the golf course to the proposed nature, whatever we call it. But thank you, Liza, for all that you've done for Highland Park, for our Park District, and for our community as a whole. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach. That's very nice.
Well said.
Okay. Finally, can I get a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Open Meeting Act? Section 2C21, the discussion of minutes lawfully closed under the Act, whether for the purposes of approval of said minutes or for conducting the semi-annual review of the minutes as set forth in Section 2.06 of the Act.
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Grossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weisskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Rundenberg,
Aye.
President Kaplan.
Aye. Show that we are adjourned at 7:13.
Can we take 5 minutes?
We can do that.
Are we going to?